game number 1 here. And, well, Habitation Station going to be starting things off in this Terran on Terran game. It's a best of 3. It's tense, it's bold, it's awesome. And spawning in the top left position, representing max flow, we have souL. And his opponent to the top right, the purple Terran player, we have DeMusliM. Alright. Good times. Always happy to see a little bit of DeMusliM action coming up because he's awesome. Of course, a British player. Probably, I'm not sure if he's joined or equally successful British player as, of course, Dignitas's Bling. But both of them, pretty awesome guys. I don't know what it is about UK StarCraft 2 pros, but they all seem to be pretty awesome and pretty cool. And yeah, TvT times. Hoping DeMusliM does well here. Is currently in Europe, thus he is competing in WCS EU, no longer in America at the Evil Geniuses team house. Anyway, quick little chuck down there of the barracks on both sides. We had a gas first from both of these two. Fast factories, gonna be likely. Probably very fast starports as well, because Habitation Station has a quick rush distance by air. A lot of dead space and drops can be cool. Also, if you want to counter that sort of thing, counter Banshee, you're going to be wanting to grab the Viking out first, or fast, and probably the Raven as well. So, this is going to be pretty awesome. In terms of anything else, scouting, only now coming down from souL's side. DeMusliM is just like, yo, I'm doing what I want to do. He's just chilling, getting the build order he wants, not too worried. Knows where his opponent's spawning. And he doesn't have to panic, to be honest, because there's not too much that just flat out kills you from this. And that's awesome. Anyway, quick little move in now. Gets the initial scout, and souL is going to quickly identify that his opponent is doing precisely what he is. Going for that gas into racks into a factory play. Their timings within a second of each other. So this is a very equal game at the moment, and I have high hopes for it. I like really equal games. I like close games where things are tense. Because if you start getting into those tense games, especially in mirror matchups, it gets exciting. More importantly as well, because it's a later stage game, because it's a round of 16 game, they're just one series away from the qualification series. Whoever wins this goes into the quarterfinal. They'll be facing off against the winner of Demaga and Stefano, which I will be going into after this series, to decide which one of them qualifies. That is crazy. So, adding in the starport now, rallied it across the map. DeMusliM also adding it through. He's adding in this tech lab though to the factory, so probably going to be looking for either Raven or the Banshee, and it's going to be out considerably sooner than what souL's got planned. souL hasn't got any add-ons yet. Instead, he's getting a Viking really fast. DeMusliM is still not scouted. souL hasn't seen much else. It doesn't know about Cloak on its way. And the trouble is, even though there's a Viking coming out, unless there's a Raven following it up, which there may be with a tech lab being added onto that factory now, there's not really any way to punish it. Because with Cloak, it just cloaks up and you're just like, pow pow pow. Not going to shoot anything. The Banshee has a whale of a time, and your opponent has to waste at least a scan or two. So, now we get into the CC game. The first expansion comes through for souL. He switches around. Raven coming out off the back of this. And this really, really shuts down Cloak Banshee. Like, so hard. A Raven and a Viking literally will look at Banshee and just be like, no. Also, the Viking's in the middle. This is going to shut down what souL is, or shut down what DeMusliM is trying to do. He doesn't have Cloak yet. It's still miles away. This Banshee, almost certainly dead. There's a couple of Marines coming over. It could get close, but does manage to get it. The Viking needs to back away, and immediately, that's straight down. The opening for DeMusliM, 100% ineffective. Got countered by what souL was doing. And DeMusliM had no idea this was coming, because he still has not scouted at any point. Doesn't know what's happening. Whereas souL knew what his opponent was doing, so just cancelled it immediately. Okay. Now we do have, of course, DeMusliM adding in his natural CC. It's being built on the low ground, so while it's a bit later, he makes up some of that time by not having to float it down. DeMusliM also here now with his Raven of his own. Didn't get a second Banshee, which I'm really glad about, because if he did get the Banshee down, he'd be in a huge amount of problems. Raven in a good position, just to check in case any Cloak Banshee were coming in or anything like that. Also has the PDD if needed, just to protect itself up against the Vikings. Factory, the second factory should I add, coming down from souL. So he is going to be going into a mech-orientated build, whereas DeMusliM hasn't yet revealed entirely what he has planned. But considering there's tanks, considering there's the medevac, it's going to be bio-tank 100%. But very little in terms of upgrades. Stim is really late. This is a timing push, aiming to actually cause a lot of damage very early on. DeMusliM behind this, adding in a third CC, feeling quite confident having taken down one of those Hellions. No need for the auto turret there because, hey, there is no natural base. The Viking and the Raven granting high ground vision. A couple of these Marines are very low on HP thanks to those Hellions getting the good shots off. And I love from souL that he's repairing up the remaining Hellions. A supply depot is going to fall. SCV's being pulled, but tank in a good siege up position. The double auto turret going to help with this. But a Seeker missile lined up for that tank. Going to get a nice little shot down, but won't kill it. It takes more than one Seeker missile to knock that through. High ground vision being given by this Viking for DeMusliM. He's also got a medevac there. Wasn't able to pick up the tank in time. That's what he was boosting over for. He wanted to get away unscathed. Meanwhile, back at home, a Banshee racking up 8-9 kills now. Gonna get 10 kills into double digits here for souL. So he's dealt some good damage, but he's only managed to kill 9 workers, whereas DeMuslim's killed 11, giving DeMusliM a fairly big lead. Plus that third CC is gonna help. The Viking and Raven will shut down the Banshee now, nice and easily. And as a result of this, we actually end up in a quite interesting position where their supplies are fairly equal, but DeMusliM has an unarguable supply lead. A couple of additional Hellions coming through, obviously good production coming out. Blue Flame on its way. This reduces the tank count by producing Hellions from just the one factory you've got. So hasn't been really pumping anything but Hellions yet. Doesn't have access to any tanks. Whereas DeMusliM in a much safer position due to having those siege tanks in such an early stage of the game. And his pushover did, I believe, overall deal a little bit more damage. 12 worker kills compared to 10. Scan now comes out from souL, sees that, okay, tank count, Viking count, etc. This Banshee being a little bit annoying, leveling out the workers kill tab, but with the third CC up, and of course more SCVs being produced, DeMusliM is going to stay up and get further ahead in the worker count. That means the longer this game goes on, the better it gets for DeMusliM. But souL doesn't want this game to go on much longer, pushing forward with some Blue Flame Hellions. Unfortunately for him though, a tank is there already, and that's going to help shut some of this down. The second tank sieges up a lot further back, and the trouble with tanks is, or Hellions against tanks, is that you can't really engage them. Hellions are great against light units, but not against armored units, and tanks are just great in the amount of damage they deal. PDD coming down, auto turrets also on their way. The Hellions just running straight past these tanks, trying to deal with them as fast as they can. Quick land of the Vikings from DeMusliM as well, once to be getting into this fight. Both tanks get taken out thanks to souL landing his Vikings. But no more damage done, no worker damage done. And that's where the big advantage is sitting for DeMusliM. The Raven dies at the same time. An additional tank coming out, preventing the re-engage from souL yet, who is now working on his third CC while adding in a bit more production. souL retreating. He's in full retreat mode, repairing up his mech units just to try and get a bit more worth out of them. DeMusliM, while he hasn't floated his third CC yet, if we look at his income, he's mining out a lot more. And the reason he is mining just so much more is because he's just called down 6 mules. Or he did just have them out. He's been muling constantly. Whereas souL has spent at least 2 scans. 2 less mules, 2 less bounds of income. And the reason we're seeing that discrepancy is because of the different build orders. By going quite infantry heavy, you need those minerals just to pump out so many Marines. However, on souL's side, because he's going mech, it's the gas. He could be muling heavily, but he just won't have enough gas to actually spend those minerals fast. It's why you see a lot of mech and Terran players chuck out a huge number of command centers, just because they've got nothing else they can spend their minerals on. So a little air superiority fight went on there, but nothing crazy. Overall, resources lost this game, favouring DeMusliM by about 1,000. But he's losing a fair few SCVs as these Blue Flame Hellions come in. That was a nice shot off, getting an additional 3. The remaining Hellions should now die, but that's 22 workers killed compared to 12, giving souL a worker lead of 56 to 50. Really back and forth game at the moment, ridiculously close on both sides. But DeMusliM about to take the upgrade lead with a +1 infantry attack kicking in and +1 infantry armor nearly completed. Meanwhile, for souL, sure he has the engineering bay, but no sign of an armory yet. If he doesn't get one soon, that upgrade advantage for DeMusliM is going to start looking very, very scary. So, we're firmly in the mid-game, past the 15-minute mark, both players sitting on the 3 bases. souL really ramping up his production. And what DeMusliM has to be wary of is just, as a mech player, you want to be getting up into the larger supply numbers before you start getting terrifying. And that's starting to be where souL's getting. He's not there yet, he's only got 5 tanks. And that's why this move out from DeMusliM with the 1-1 timing, with stim, with, of course, combat shield and concussive shell on the way, is awesome. Gonna have to contend with another Blue Flame run by. Only 2 Blue Flame Hellions though, and with the tank there should get shut out. So, adding in a sense tower, but a good scan. Will these tanks be enough to zone all of this out? Well, probably. Is this missile turret wall enough to stop just a big drop in? We'll find out. There's a small little gap here where units can go through, but that's occupied by a lot of Vikings. In go the medevacs, they're dropping out fast. PDD being used to try and disrupt that, but one of the medevacs with a lot of units in gets taken down. The tanks being forced to reposition from that 3rd base. It's a long way out. Is DeMusliM going to be able to deal a critical amount of damage? He's focusing down some of these supply depots, trying to pick off a good number more SCVs, but he's made a bold move. The tanks trying to move up here. The auto turrets getting a good bit of damage out, but SCVs being pulled to try and trade here. So, gets a tank into position. DeMusliM's army has pretty much all been killed out, but remember, 32 workers killed now by the Evil Genius's player compared to souL, who's killed 24. That's 69 to 57. Again, the worker lead switches sides back to DeMusliM. CC count is currently sitting at 3 orbitals and 1 CC here for souL, whereas DeMusliM only on those 3 orbital commands. No sign of any additional... Oh, sorry. 3 orbital commands and the 1 CC as well. So, still level pegging in the bases, but look at the supplies. Somewhat expected, DeMusliM is ahead in the overall supply count. That's a great little scan coming down. Straight away from souL. He wants to get a good look at this army. Where's it going? Repositioning some of his own units. And the important thing is that these missile turrets have been taken down. And that means that the medevacs manage to get up, get a good number of units unloaded. Siege tanks sniped off nice and quick, pulling back to the safety of these tanks to just reach up into the main ground. Ooh, full medevac gets taken down. Always annoying when that happens. And now, DeMusliM tries to keep this little bit of damage coming through. Very, very close. souL at 69 army supply. DeMusliM, 96. So a lead there. But the tank count for souL, hugely higher. 11 to 4. That means if you can siege them up and get them in a good spot, it is insanely hard for DeMusliM to challenge that. And that's why we're seeing a lot of this kind of multi-prong attack. The double drops coming in here and there. The attempt to get to any base that they can. The barracks is actually about to fall, and that isn't insignificant because if I give a quick glance here, there aren't actually any other barracks on the field. That will prevent souL from adding in any more factories. This double drop attempting to come in from the side, but of course the tank line does spread down that far. DeMusliM backing out, going to try and get the refinery. If you hinder a meching Terran's gas income, you hinder their production. Kiting back away from these Hellbats, playing it nice and steady. Meanwhile, the double drop back into the main because some tanks have repositioned. DeMusliM trying to keep the pressure on, keep the multi-prong on. It's working alright for him. Going to type out a couple of these production facilities, picking off the missile turrets so the medevacs are safer. The add-ons, though, are the guaranteed damage. Taking these out prevents any further tank production. Those siege tanks sieging up, quick little pick up and a boost away will keep things safe, or you just boost on top of your opponent. The natural base is where a vulnerability lay though, and DeMusliM going to be going for a couple more SCV pulls. DeMusliM, if he can start taking down more SCVs, really enhances his overall income lead that's currently sitting at 72 workers to 64. But in terms of trading, he's also trading more efficiently. That is where the upgrade advantage really comes into play. That is where just the fact that he's constantly harassing comes into play. Currently 2-2 up against 1-0. +2 is about to be done for souL's mech attack, but he's got no mech armor. And DeMuslim's already working on 3-3. Still very tense. Very close game. DeMusliM though dropping back into the main, and he's got a tank there now. This is going to make things harder for souL. Even just one tank up on that high ground causes a bit of problems, and souL is not going to easily be able to get up that ramp in order to come and defend this. Trying to move up, trying to get into a better tank position. The siege tank of DeMusliM taken down, but he annihilates the main base of souL. And while there's no minerals there, these two gases still had a fair amount there. Of course, more of these buildings getting taken out. The production of souL is starting to hurt. DeMusliM preparing to push in towards the third base where there's only 3 tanks defending and they're unprotected. DeMusliM doing a great job of just slowly working through. And there's the GG. DeMusliM takes game number 1 of this best of 3 for an early lead in the series.